anyhow, at the time, I was a young farm girl that had not been off the farm, to tell the truth, and changing from living on a farm and rural life. And New Mexico was very rural at that time. We had less than 1 million people in New Mexico. And so it was very wide open and long ways in between every little town, but there were lots of little towns. And people did things as a community, I think, a lot more than they do now, because they didn't get far out of the area where they lived. Well, they just didn't understand ranch life, and they thought a rancher always had dirt on his boots and this sort of thing. And that was some of the stories that we'd hear people to say, well, we'd want someone carrying cow manure in on the rugs in the governor's residence and things. And it was just a kind of an attitude that people felt like that you just didn't know the city life, I guess. I'm not sure what they felt. But anyhow, they soon got over that, and we soon adjusted to learning how to live within a city and in close proximity to everybody. We're out here, if we get out and holler, no one hears you, this sort of thing. But people were very good, and they really wanted to come see what the mansion was like, because they always heard stories about the mansion. Well, it's not a mansion, it's a home, and it's still a home very much, though it's improved a great deal from the time when we lived there.
And how did a woman's place change as you were in your different times?
Well, as we changed from different times, and Bruce was always very open-minded, and he figured that, you know, we could do whatever we could do. And so he worked with me when I wanted to work on a project, and people came because they had so little, and there were so few services in any kind of system in our state at that time. So people would come to you and tell how they needed some kind of a program, particularly for children, which is what touched my heart. And so Bruce would let me work on it, and I could work with the cabinet secretaries. And in his second term, I traveled with the cabinet secretaries that were doing health and social service work and this sort of thing, to see what was going on in the state, as well as I traveled around the state to visit the schools. So I became pretty involved at that time. And then by his third term, he allowed me to have an office in the governor's office. And so I had the first lady's office that was in the governor's office, and I worked full-time as a governor's staff person, unpaid. He didn't pay very well, but otherwise,
You're Bill, either one.
I got paid by being rewarded for programs and seeing how it helped people, and seeing the opportunities you had to really help people. And there are such opportunities there if you just take them. Mine's always children, children, children. And a lot of things I worked with children bring back many fond memories. But I guess the best thing is getting the Department for Children, Youth, and Families going in New Mexico, the first in the nation. And it's still there. It's still working. It's growing, and hopefully we'll one day be able to make life stop a lot of the problems we are having to deal with, families and children right now. And working with people, and how important the people of your state and of your country are, and the fact that they can always do things better if they work together, and believe in what is good for one is good for all, that we are not a divided country, or we're not a divided state or a divided people, but we can all work together and make things better for all of us. And we hope that in working that way, and working with families and working with state government, it's the same thing. You work together or you fall apart.